Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Readings with Regina. Now, you know this is April, so this is the month of little Bobby Hutton, who was the first Panther recruit, and he was treasurer of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, and it is also the month of Mumia Abu Jamal, whose birthday is tomorrow. Yes. So I want to get right into the books because I have a lot of other things that I want to share with you. Now, I'm going to start with I know it's your favorite. I just know it is The Slave Ship. Here we go. Very important book by Marcus Rediker, The Slave Ship. And why would I have chosen The Slave Ship to share with you? It's because this is how Black people got to America. All right? This is how we got here in chains, captured, kidnapped. And I want you all to remember that, to not overlook it, because the people who were shackled aboard this, the actually, the Black people call them the ships of sorrow, they are our ancestors. You never want to forget your ancestors. So here we go with The Slave Ship. The doctor's difficult job, this is a doctor aboard the slave ship. The doctor's difficult job was to keep the crew and the slaves alive from one side of the Atlantic to the other. He assisted in the purchase of slaves, carefully inspecting each one for signs of sickness or debility, knowing that the healthy would have the best chance of surviving the stay on the African coast and the Middle Passage and of fetching the highest prices in America. Once the slaves had come aboard, the doctor tended to them daily, attempted to answer their complaints, diagnosed illnesses, and prescribed medications. He also treated the crew, who themselves suffered a host of maladies. Once they crossed the pathogenic Barrier Reef from West Africa. Early in the 18th century, only the larger ships carried a doctor, and the smaller, faster American slave ships, most of them out of Rhode Island, rarely carried one throughout the century, taking instead a recipe book for medicines to be used by the captain. After the passage of the Dolben Act or Slave Carrying Bill of 1788, all British slave ships were required to have a doctor on board, and the doctor himself was required to keep records of sickness and death on the voyage. I want to emphasize this. After the passage of the Dolben Act or Slave Carrying Bill in 1788, they were passing all kinds of bills to institute slavery. It was legal. I never want you to all to overlook that. This was a legal American and British and European, other European countries enterprise. So they passed legislation so they could keep it moving. The carpenter, an important specialist in the wooden world, I like that, was responsible for the structural soundness of the ship and its various parts. He checked the hull regularly, forcing oakum and wooden plugs into the seams of planks to keep the vessel tight. He also repaired the masts, the yards, and machinery. He gave the slave ship several of its distinctive characteristics. During the outward passage, he built the barricado on the main deck and the bulkheads and platforms on the lower deck, effectively transforming a generic merchant ship into a slaver. He paid special attention to the longboat and the yawl, especially when they were important to trade. As on the windward coast, the carpenter had learned his craft through apprenticeship and sometimes trained a mate on the ship. I'm going to read this again. The carpenter had learned his craft through apprenticeship. This is how they passed down the enslavement institution from generation to generation. They trained young people to be apprentices who could be carpenters aboard the slave ship. All right, here we go. Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Yes, by Harriet Jacobs. True story. In the book, her name is Linda Brent. But let me get a banner up here. I got to get a banner up here. Let's see. Which one do I want? Here's one. Know that you are wonderful people. You're wonderful. Nobody might not have told you that, or you might not feel that way, Black people in particular, but you are wonderful. All right? Now, I shall get to the book. Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Now, remember, Linda Brent has escaped, but nobody knows where she is. Lisa enslavers don't know where she is. Okay. Where am I? Here I am. Okay. Where am I? No, I did that one. Oh. Some days after this adventure, I had a much worse fright. As I sat very still in my retreat above stairs, cheerful visions floated through my mind. I thought Dr. Flint would soon get discouraged and would be willing to sell my children when he lost all hopes of making them the means of my discovery. I knew who was ready to buy them. That's the father of the children. He's a white guy, and he wants to buy his own kids. But Dr. Flint, the pedophile enslaver, won't sell. Suddenly, I heard a voice that chilled my blood. The sound was too familiar to me. Now remember, now she's hiding. Nobody knows where she is. It had been too dreadful for me not to recognize at once my old master's voice. He was in the house. See, she's hiding in somebody else's house. And I at once concluded he had come to seize me. I looked around in terror. There was no way of escape. The voice receded. I suppose the constable was with him, and they were searching the house. In my alarm, I did not forget the trouble I was bringing on my generous benefactress. It seemed as if I was born to bring sorrow on all who befriended me, and that was the bitterest drop in the bitter cup of my life. After a while, I heard approaching footsteps. The key was turned in my door. I braced myself against the wall to keep from falling. I ventured to look up, and there stood my kind benefactress, a white woman, alone. I was too much overcome to speak and sunk down upon the floor. I thought you would hear your master's voice, she said, and knowing you would be terrified, I came to tell you there's nothing to fear. You may even indulge in a laugh at the old gentleman's expense. He is so sure you are in New York that he came to borrow $500 to go in pursuit of you. My sister had some money to loan on interest. He has attained it and proposes to start for New York tonight. So for the present, you see, you are safe. The doctor will merely lighten his pocket, hunting after the bird he has left behind. Hello. Now check this out. This pedophile, Dr. Flint, has been hunting this child down. He's got to have her. He owns her. And she dared to run away. Now remember, she's a house slave. He's just going to hunt her down. He prevented her from marrying a black carpenter. Isn't that interesting? I'm not saying he worked on the slave ship, but a black man wanted to marry her, and Linda wanted to marry him too. Oh! But Dr. Flint would not sell her. And check this out, my people. This is a true story. Let me tell you about George Washington. You know, the first president of the United States. He chased down Ona Judge, his enslaved sister. He hunted her down for years. Listen, read the story of Ona Judge. It's even in a children's book. George Washington's slave that he hunted down. He couldn't believe she left him. Can you imagine that? And I just wonder what the backstory was to that. Yes, the first president of the United States hunted down one of his enslaved women, just like this Dr. Flint is hunting down Linda Brent. Okay, now we're going to go to Ida B. Wells, the first investigative reporter who was a woman. All right, and what did she investigate? Lynchings of black men. But the section that I'm actually going to read now is a section where Frederick Douglass, y'all know the great Frederick Douglass, he's just died. And there was a real problem among the sisters in particular, because he remarried after his first wife, who was black, after she died, okay? He married a white woman. Well, you can imagine, that was quite an episode. So here we go. I dwell especially on these incidents so that all may appreciate the nobility of character of Helen Pitt Douglass. That's Fred Douglass' second wife, who kept on her steadfast way in spite of what she had to endure at the hands of the African people, because she had married not African people, excuse me, the hands of the American people, because she had married a colored man. She made possible the bequeathing of the Douglass home to the Negro race. The will giving her the home had only 2 witnesses instead of the 3 required by law. Therefore, the property became the legacy of all the heirs. Mrs. Douglass mortgaged the home in order to get the money to buy out the other heirs. At her death, the mortgage would have been foreclosed, but for the vision of Mrs. Mary Talbert, president of the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs. Before the passing of Mrs. Douglass, the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs passed a resolution which reads as follows: while the Negro race, led by its womanhood, I love that. They talk about womanhood, manhood. Oh, when the Negro race, led by its womanhood, rejoices in the Douglass home and honors the memory of Frederick Douglass and Anna Murray Douglass, that was his first wife, who helped him to freedom, which she did, and inspired him to battle for his race, which she did. Let us not fail, though, to do honor to the second wife. Check this out. Helen Pitt Douglass. She was just as faithful and loyal to his race. She loved her husband with as great a love as any woman ever showed. Oh my. She endured martyrdom because of that love, with a heroism and fortitude greater than anything Annie Murray Douglass was ever called on to endure. And she it was who made it possible for us to have this shrine in honor of Frederick Douglass, the greatest Negro this country has produced. Now, let me listen. Those of you who have never visited Frederick Douglass House in Washington, D.C., go. Take your children. That house is well preserved. I was overwhelmed when I went there. They even have a bust of Frederick Douglass. I mean, like the very likeness of his face. It's incredible. And like I said in a previous show, man, when you walk into that house, it looks like Frederick Douglass is about to just come on down the stairs or come on in or whatever. His shoes are there. So it's a remarkable place to visit. All right. And it will remind you and your children and grandchildren of our history because Frederick Douglass was one of the greatest orators of our time. Okay, now I'm going to jump to another book. Where am I? Assata. 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 Now, why I'm even, repeating the title of this book, because I have noticed that young people are, wearing hoodies or t-shirts. Assata taught me, well, what did she teach you? This is what I want to know. Have you read her book? Have you purchased her book? Think about it. All right. Assata. Now, Assata's in prison, and I'm going to pick up where I left off on Tuesday. Okay. Yes. Okay. Around this time, I started taking my little walks. Staying cooped up in that cage all day was driving me up the wall. So when the guards brought my food, I would walk past them into what was called the day room, where the women ate and watched TV. I would walk first to one dorm, then to the other, then return to my cell. There was no place I could run to since there were 2 or 3 locked doors between me and the outside. Yeah, to even visit a prison is horrible. It feels horrible even on us who visit. Oh, let me stop. All right. Most of the guards would nag me to come back into my cell. And after a short time, I would. But none of them got too crazy about it until one day a guard yelled at me, "Get back here. Did you hear me? Get back here." If there's one thing I can't stand, it's being ordered around. And if there's another thing that makes me go wild, it's for a white person to talk to me in that tone of voice. "You make me come back here," I told her. "You so big and bad, I want to see you make me come back here." She made a move like she was going to grab me. "You put your hands on me and it's going to be me and you. You lay a hand on me and I'm going to splatter your brains all over these walls." It's a good thing she didn't try me, though, because she outweighed me by at least 50 pounds, and I was still pretty much the one armed bandit. But I would have given her a hell of a fight. I was mad and frustrated, and I had already stored up about 2 or 3 months of anger. Anyway, I finally went back into the cell when I was good and ready, but her attitude made me defiant. Whenever she opened my cell for anything, I would push past her and walk around for a minute. She would stand in the doorway like she was a door or something, and I would rear back and butt her out of the way. She was as big as a house, but she didn't have one bit of strength. Finally, she called the male guards. I was in one of the dorms talking to the women, wondering why she wasn't bothering me, when about 10 male guards came into the room. "Who is Joanne Chesimar?" the head guard asked. Nobody said anything. "Which one of you is Joanne Chesimar?" They looked like they were ready to leap on somebody. Again, no one responded. All right, I'm going to ask you again. Which one of you is Joanne Chesimar? I'm Joanne Chesimar, Eva said. Well, when the guards took one look at Eva and saw how big she was, their tone changed immediately. Miss Chesimar, would you please return to your cell? One of the guards came from the back and tapped the sergeant on the shoulder. I know her, he said. She's not Chesimar. I am who you are looking for, I said. I didn't want Eva to get too involved in my madness. I'll see you sisters later. I've had enough excitement for the moment. I walked past them and went to my cell and opened a book. You hear this? I walked past them and went to my cell and opened a book. Do you hear me, people? I walked past them and went to my cell and opened a book. That's why I do readings with Regina. Book learning is exceedingly important for Black people, for the brain. It enhances the intellectual acumen of all people. You must read. And I'm emphasizing that because we are living during a time of technology that's supposed to be the greatest ever. But is it? Is it? People are writing text. They're not writing in cursive. If you stop writing, do you understand that you will lose the ability to write? And I don't want that for my people. I want to help our race improve. Why? Because we are living in a time of constant war put on by the most devilish, vampirish white folk in the world. And they have their hands on nuclear bombs. All right, let me stop because I want to go here. Black is beautiful when blood stick together. Yes, Black is beautiful when blood stick together. Now you see this brother right here, Mumia Abu Jamal. He's been in prison for 44 years. That's wrong. That's inhumane. That's elder abuse. Why is Mumia Abu Jamal in prison? Why? Because Mumia Abu Jamal is a strong Black man. He stood up against tyranny. Can you dig it? He was a newspaper brother. All right, his voice, you want to talk Paul Robeson? You want to talk Malcolm X? Mumia Abu Jamal talked about stories in Philadelphia that the press here and across the world didn't want to hear. They didn't want to hear about MOVE. They didn't want to hear about the legacy of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. They didn't want to hear any of that. Mumia was a marked man. Yo, a marked man, just like I have told you today and other days about how they will do their best to isolate strong Black men, strong Black women that stand up for the race. Let me show you Mumia again. There's Bobby Seale, right? To the left of him, and there's Huey. Okay? To the right of him. And here is little Bobby Hutton. I've already told you about him. But this is Mumia's time. It is his birthday. And I want you all to go to, let me see if I can change this banner. I want you all to go to, let me get it. It's coming. Any minute now. Here it is right here. I want to show this. Mobilization for Mumia. Go there and see all the activities in Philly and across the country for Mumia Abu Jamal. And let me show you. Let me just, where am I? I gotta go here. I want to show you something else. Okay, here we go. Read Mumia's books. Have Black Lives Ever Matter? See, he's brilliant. The man done wrote about 14 books. They want to keep him in lockdown. They don't want you to know him. They don't want you to know how he thought. They don't want you to know anything about this brother in chains. Have Black Lives Ever Mattered? This is a great book, a book of his essays. On the Move, okay, by Terry Bassan. This is the story of Mumia Abu Jamal, an important man in our contemporary history that we must get out of jail. They want him to be in jail forever, just like they wanted that for Asada. But people know that you are wonderful. You have strength that you can use that will help our people. So, On the Move, there he is. And Death Blossoms. Oh, wonderful book. Wonderful. Now, in Death Blossoms, I don't know why the preface is by Julia Wright. Y'all know Julia Wright because I've read her poetry. Okay? But this is a wonderful book to get to know who Mumia Abu Jamal is, because right as I speak, he is in lockdown where he should not be. All right? Just like they arrested Bobby Seale and had him in chains and beat him. They arrested Huey. They killed little Bobby Hutton. Mumia Abu Jamal is brilliant. Wait, I'm not done. Check this. This is Mumia. This is his marvelous book. I read this book to you when I started this series. Yes, Murder Incorporated, Empire, Genocide, Manifest Destiny. This book is a monster. Mumia and Stephen Victoria wrote this book. And that's not all. Murder Incorporated 2. They got 3 volumes. I'm still on 2. Okay? Empire, Genocide, Manifest Destiny. Okay? And look at the airplane. See the airplane? Can you see it? Move back here. See it dropping bombs? What do you think your country is doing in Iran? What do you think that means to send soldiers over to a country that never did anything to America? America's a bully. All right? And we got these biggest bullies in this administration. Well, if you really want to understand what's going on, you should get Murder Incorporated Part 2. They even have a Murder Incorporated Part 3, but I haven't gotten to that yet. But I know that it is indeed a monster. People, why am I talking to you like this? Because I know that many of you feel powerless. I know you do. Sometimes I do. I know that you feel distraught. I know you don't want to look at those pictures in Gaza. You don't want to see any more children being killed. It is hurtful. I got that. I got that. Look what Israel has done to Palestine. Palestine. Jesus is home. Can you dig it? Why am I telling you these things? Because I want you to know your power, people. I don't want you to continue to feel powerless. I want you to go deep inside yourself and see what it is that you personally can do to make this world a better place. We have every right to be here because we are here. But we also have every right to call out evil. I start off this program with the slave ship. Yo, that was a business. The boats were built. The boats were maintained to capture our ancestors, to kill the ancestors that fought against them. Do you understand that? There were insurrections aboard these slave ships too. I want you to know that as well. But I also want you to understand that the business of a slave ship was that, a business. This is why I read to you today about the carpenters, about the doctors, about the kinds of teams that be on or that have been on these slave ships. Do you understand that? I want you to look at your job. What kind of job do you have right now? I know you need a job. This is capitalistic America. I'm not saying you shouldn't have one, but what I will say is this: how does your job help the improvement of your race? How does your job help for Black people to become independent? Because we need to be. We don't need to be appendages of racist capitalism and the kind of evil that would go around the world and kill people. Kill, kill, kill. And if you think only a handful of American soldiers have been killed in this so-called Iranian war, and it's not. America went over there and messed with the Iranians. What did the Iranians ever do to you? So, brothers and sisters, I just wanted you to think about these things before I sign off for today. I want you to think about the fact that you are here during this time period for a reason. You may not know what that reason is, but go to your heart. You know good and well this country is terrible. You know that. You know that this killing machine is just awful. It is off the charts awful. It started from an awful genocide against the indigenous here. Then it continued with a darn near genocide of the captured Africans that they brought over here and gave free labor for free. Frederick Douglass was one of those enslaved people. Linda Brent, Harriet Jacobs was one of those enslaved people. Okay? And once they were gone, Ida B. Wells shows us how much the so-called Negro, what Malcolm would say, had bought into this American culture. Ida B. Wells herself said she used to believe that when Negroes were hung, that they had raped a white woman. Yo, she said it. She said, I thought that was the truth. Why? Because she read it in the newspapers. Don't you today believe the mainstream media? They get their talking points from the CIA, FBI, the administration. If you haven't already, find alternative news forums. All right, brothers and sisters, I done preached enough, but I really want you to know these things because they are important. I really want you to use my videos as teaching tools for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren, cousins, and friends. I want you to love Black people, a fierce, fierce love, because that's the kind of love that Huey P. Newton, right here, and Bobby Seale, right there, taught both Mumia and little Bobby Hutton and Regina Jennings and millions more. They taught us to love Black people. And I do, and I will forever. All right? Forgive those Blacks who get on your nerves that they ain't doing what they supposed. Forgive them. Teach them. And chart a way, your way, where you can improve your race. All right, brothers and sisters. I'm going to sign off for sure now. Okay. Readings with Regina. We'll be back next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. Same time, same place. You do something good for yourself this weekend. Celebrate Mumia Abu Jamal's birthday this weekend. And I'll see you next week. Bye now.